Hi guys, this is Mrs. Killian. This is the oral administration of the Ice Mummies of the Inca. This is one of my favorite lesson plans. It's basically, when we're talking about South America, there is one of the native tribes called the Incan tribe. You might have heard of like the Aztecs in Central America. This is going to be more in the Peruvian area of South America, and they are called the Inca. And they did some crazy things like sacrifices and stuff that we're going to read about. So let's go ahead and get started. Ice Mummies of the Inca. At 20,700 feet, the wind blows bitingly cold over the peak of Mount Ampato in the Andean mountain range that runs through Peru. As two men stood at the peak, staring down into a ravine 200 feet below them, red feathers buried in ice and frozen earth waved to them. Descending into the ravine, one of the climbers returned with three small figurines made of gold and silver, dressed in beautifully dyed cloth, topped with red and yellow feather headdresses. So like headdresses. Okay? Excitedly, the men returned to the summit, scanning the ravines below. When they spied what they were looking for, they descended again to find another offering to the gods. This time, it was the body of a small girl, presented by ancient Inca priests to the mountain gods almost 500 years before. It's getting crazy. Bringing the small frozen body back to the modern world was not easy, but when Johann Reynard and Miguel Zarate brought the ice mummy, nicknamed Juanita, down from the mountain in 1995, they gave scientists a rare chance to study a culture and people that had long disappeared. The Inca were a proud and powerful people. At its height, the Inca Empire stretched 2,500 miles along the Andean Mountains. So we're looking right here on this map, right here, the Andean Mountain Range in Peru. From modern Colombia, up here, to the south, and boasted a population estimated at 12 million. That's a lot of people. They ruled over the western coast of South America, beginning around AD 1200 until 1532, when Spanish conquistadors invaded. So here we're seeing some European colonization over here. When the Spaniards come from Europe over into South America and try to colonize, that's imperialization, right? They try to colonize and take the resources. The Spanish brought disease and war to the New World, causing Inca civilization to decline or go down and eventually be absorbed into Spanish culture. So basically the Inca here were losing their own culture and their own traditions and ideologies and everything because the Spaniards came and were trying to change everything about them. You actually see that in North America too, with how when the British were coming over and kind of taking the Native Americans' land, they were trying to absorb, they were trying to get the Native Americans to convert their culture to be more English, right? So this was happening with the Incans in South America. The center of the Inca Empire was Cusco. That might sound familiar. A magnificent city that was home to the emperor, who was the son of the sun god Viracocha. According to their legends, the Inca believed in many gods, so polytheistic. Poly means many, theistic. Polytheistic means they believe in many gods, and that these gods ruled the natural world. Festivals and celebrations were held in their honor or to appease them, to make them happy. Just as the physical mountains dominated the landscape, the mountain gods dominated the religion of the Inca people. People prayed to them, looked to them for divine guidance, and sometimes sacrificed their children to them. During important events such as the death of the Inca emperor or disastrous events such as droughts or epidemics, sound familiar? The Inca held an ancient ceremony called Capacocha. Traveling to the very tops of the sacred mountains, priests offered up the very best food, drink, richly decorated gold icons or figurines that the people could offer. Sometimes the offering included a child. To be chosen, the child was usually the son or daughter of a noble family, right? So they were kind of royalty in a way. And they had to be physically perfect. So no blemishes or handicaps. They had to have like perfect skin, perfect everything. They couldn't have any handicaps. The age of the children ranged anywhere from 5 to 20 years old. For the Capacocha ceremony, the child and his or her family traveled to Cusco, where they would meet the emperor and be feted with or given a large celebratory feast in the child's honor. While we can never know all that a family felt when their child was selected, of course they might be sad and everything like that, we also know it was also considered to bring honor to the family, and it linked them forever to Viracocha, the sun god. In addition, they believed that when the child had died, he or she also became a god. Anybody over there want to, when they die, want to become a god? That sounds kind of cool. I mean, relatively speaking. Archaeologists have found several mummies besides Juanita. The first was found in 1954, a little boy on a mountaintop in Chile. A boy and girl were found several hundred feet below Juanita's gravesite. Another girl was found in 1996 on the nearby mountain Sarasara. Some of the children had frozen to death. Some, like Juanita, had been struck unconscious first. Because the mummies are frozen, much of the biological information is still intact, so scientists can study it and determine what types of foods the Inca grew and ate, what diseases they were subject to, and other important clues to their lives. By using modern scientific methods such as DNA analysis, X-ray scanning, and computer modeling, scientists and historians can begin to learn more about this ancient culture. Crazy stuff, right? Okay. While you're reading all of that, kind of think about too, like one thing that I really like to have my students think about is this okay? Like, think about it. Think about taking a body from its burial site and trying to display it in a museum. Yes, it would give us so much insight into the culture that's like extinct, basically. We know nothing about them, and we wouldn't know anything or very little about these Incan people unless we were to see them and do experiments on them. But also, it's kind of like taking somebody from their grave, like grave robbing someone and putting them into a museum. So weigh the pros and cons there. Like, is it okay to display a mummy in a museum? Like, take them from their gravesite and then display them in a museum for other people to look at when they have no say? Obviously, they're dead, but think about that. Would you want to be displayed in a museum after you die? Or would it, honor them as well, like people knowing about their culture and like us learning about them? So that's an interesting question. Now, obviously, this is a PDF, so you can't answer these questions on here. But what you're going to do is you're going to answer the questions on this Google slideshow right here. So you'll use this PDF to answer these questions. So here's the article here that we just read. And here are the questions that you're going to answer. Where is the Inca Empire located and how large was it? You'll answer in this slide. What was the capital of the Inca Empire and what was the capital of modern Peru? When did the Inca Empire begin? When did it end? Why did it end? What was Capacocha? Where and when was Capacocha held? And last, why did families agree to have their children serve as offerings in the Capacocha ceremony? Like I said, this is one of my favorite lessons, and not because I'm weird, although it might be true, but because it's so interesting. Like, that was hundreds and hundreds of years ago, but it's crazy to think about now, like sacrificing a child to a god because the god would make their family like royalty and like they would become a god and they would help them have like fertile land and crops and everything, and like their people would, it's just crazy to think about now, right? Anyway, enjoy the article. I hope you had some crazy learning experiences throughout this process, and if you have any questions, just let us know. Thanks. Bye.